Morning. How's everybody doing? Come on, come on. We can try bonjour. How's that? Better? Well, on behalf of the company, I want to welcome you. A lot of work goes into events like this, but it's really in support of all of you, our customers, and the entire company is always looking forward to getting here and getting this thing started, and we've got a great day planned. With the time that I have allocated, I want to go on a bit of a journey. And I want to explore this world that we live in and some of the changes that are happening in terms of how we all connect with technology. I then want to look at how that change is impacting businesses and enterprises and many of you. I'm then going to be so daring as to introduce a topic called driving a revolution. And then I want to talk about how I think Couchbase should be your revolutionary partner. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. The world we live in is changing. The way we interact with technology is constantly evolving. And we really don't have to look very much further than the next generation. My wife and I have 3 little kids, 3 little girls, very courageous, very daring, very loud as it turns out. They're 10, 7, and 4. And to watch them interact with technology is nothing short of remarkable. I mean, just one generation removed from most of us here in the audience, and the way they interact with technology is fundamentally different than the way we did when we were their age. They've never met a screen that they didn't expect to interact with, that they didn't expect when they came up to that screen and they touched that screen that it wasn't going to understand the very direction of what they were after, that it was going to interpret their movements and give them information that was different the second time they were interacting than the first. They have what I would refer to as an on-demand mindset, meaning that they want content whenever they are, wherever they are, on a real-time basis. As an example, we could be driving in the car and they say, you know, Dad, there's a screen, we have connectivity, I want to see a particular movie or listen to a song. And it's completely inconceivable to them that I would say, well, in this particular medium, that's not possible. Their expectations are completely different than ours. Now, the reality is that's not just the case with them, it's the case with us. I recently bought a car, and for the first time in my life, the way I purchased that car was completely different than any vehicle I've purchased before. Never did I go to the dealer. Never did I meet the person that I made the purchase from. I was not constrained by the inventory, let alone at the local dealership, even within my own city. It was a completely different interaction and engagement than what I've been used to up to this point in my life. And it's not just the case with cars, healthcare. My primary physician works through Stanford University. We now communicate via an application that he uses, and our relationship is almost exclusively a digital one. And the experience that I've come to expect is not about going into the doctor's office and having that painful wait where I sit and hope that he's going to have some time to see me. It's a perfect amount of interaction that on demand, when I'm ready to talk to him, or I have a question for him, or I need to refill a prescription, it happens via the application. My interaction is better, my engagement is higher. And I, as a consumer, and the person that chooses where I'm going to derive my healthcare benefits from, choose him because of the experience he delivers. So what is all that? That's what we're going to refer to as the engagement economy. And in the engagement economy, our expectations of technology are totally different. Applications need to be personalized. They need to be feature-rich. They need to be available all the time via any mechanism that we so choose. And those are the expectations that we all have across all aspects of how we do business, all aspects of how we spend our money, all aspects of how we interact with the enterprises that we're in touch with. And so this engagement economy is very real. And I want to go through some of the implications of that engagement economy. The first is all around customer experience. Believe it or not, IDC suggests that by the year 2020, just 3 years from now, customer experience is going to be more important than product or price. Think about that. We get up every day and we think about the goods and services that we want to deliver to our end customers, but it's the experience in which they come to achieve those goods and services that's going to be more important than the very thing that we're building. If you get that wrong, let's say a customer has a bad experience, 89% of those customers are going to go to the competition. 91% of people who have a bad interaction aren't willingly going to do business with that company again. So the impact of customer experience is real. It's the thing that matters. Now, what else about this engagement economy is a fact? It's that it's incredibly disruptive. It's disruptive to the very enterprises that we're a part of as we think about being successful on a go-forward basis. And I want to explore that disruption a little more. A recent study was commissioned by PwC, and it pointed out that customers are now the most powerful disruptive force facing business, and in particular facing enterprises. Now you may think to yourself, well, that seems fairly obvious that customers would be the ones driving change. But when you start to double click on that, it's actually a fairly compelling subtlety. See, a lot of businesses are used to getting up every day and thinking about their competitors and what's happening with their markets. And they say, well, if we can be just a little bit faster than our competition, we're going to win. Or if we study the market, maybe we'll get ahead of a little change and we'll prosper. But the fact of the matter is, if companies aren't maniacally focused on customers and the experience you're deriving, you're going to miss that transformation. Now, how big of a deal can that be? Let's look at some data. Believe it or not, but over the last 10 years, 15 years, I apologize, 52% of the S&P 500 has disappeared. Think about that, 52%, half of the world's largest companies from just a decade and a half ago no longer exist. I mean, that is massive, massive disruption. The more incredible thing is that that pace of disruption is accelerating. So over the next 10 years, it's predicted that 75% of the S&P 500 is going to turn over. So 500 largest companies, 75% of them won't exist in a decade. Meaning that some of the largest companies are organizations that we've never heard of. We're going to talk more about how they're coming to be and what they're taking advantage of. Before we do that, let's look at a few examples. So my guess is these logos look very, very familiar to all of you. They have taken advantage of market dynamics. They've focused on customers in a way that other companies haven't. Netflix. When we took the snapshot end of last week, it was valued at over $75 billion. Anybody remember Hollywood Video, Blockbuster, those organizations that we were depending on for content? Gone. And that's not to mention the disruption that they're driving in original content and other distribution that we're so dependent on. How about Amazon? Amazon's market cap is just shy of $500 billion. That's larger than Walmart, Costco, Target, Macy's, and Kohl's combined. Now let's look at that from a European perspective. The three largest European retailers, Carrefour, Metro, and Tesco, have a combined market cap of right around $37 billion. Less than 1/10 of Amazon. Think about that, an order of magnitude larger just in terms of retail. Tesla is now more valuable than Ford, General Motors, and BMW. Airbnb is more valuable than Hilton and Hyatt combined. And they're doing that with a combined workforce of less than 1% of those big retail chains. And on and on and on. LinkedIn has completely changed the relationship that employers have with potential employees and how we connect as professionals. And there are many other examples of these disruptive forces. What does that all add up to? There's not a company around the planet that isn't sitting in a boardroom talking about a digital transformation, studying their markets and trying to understand how do we go faster, how do we use technology to get closer to our customers. So you hear about the digital economy and digital transformations. Well, when you add up all the spend that's going to be allocated towards those transformations, it turns out there's going to be $2.2 trillion spent on these types of transformations by 2019. And that's up dramatically from a few years ago. People are pouring money into these initiatives, trying to figure out how they're going to create their next businesses. So we at Couchbase went out and we said, well, how are these digital transformations happening? We actually commissioned a survey of 450 IT leaders in North America and in Europe, and we asked them, how's it going? Well, it turns out 90% of digital transformation projects where everybody's standing up on stages like this in front of their employees and saying this is the most important priority, 9 out of 10 of those are failing, not delivering the improvements that are necessary for a transformation. We went a little further and said, well, why aren't they working? And it turns out 84% of them are because their database is insufficient in enabling the applications that are required to create the very customer experiences that are necessary to be successful. Okay, so transformation is happening, disruption is real. So you may ask yourself, like we are, well, how do you become successful in this engagement economy? First and foremost, I think it's critically important to never lose sight of what we're all after. With markets disrupting this quickly, this is about acquiring new customers. It's about building new value for your shareholder. It's about creating leadership positions for our companies that are going to be, foundational components of how we deliver for many years to come. But what has to change? Why is this not working? So we turn to one of the greatest minds in the history of technology and business. Steve Jobs once said, the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do. So when we start to think about, well, what does that mean? What was Steve driving at when it comes to innovation? Well, the reality is incremental improvements are not good enough. To say we need tomorrow to be a little bit better than today is insufficient because the markets are moving too fast, customer expectations are changing too quickly, that you're going to be one of those companies that's left behind. So what does that all mean? How do you go forward? Well, what I'm here to tell you today is that you have to embrace this disruption in a way that you never have. That's what the most successful companies are doing. And it's not about on-the-margin improvement. It's radical new approaches, new thinking, new ways of going after customers, expectations that you have to create a better world. You have to have dedication and persistence to continue to innovate and continue to think about new models and new services and new products. Simply put, it's about driving a revolution. Now, revolution seems like a big word, and I just told you that incremental improvements aren't enough. So how do those things rationalize? Well, the reality about revolutions is they all start with an idea. It's one person who walks into a conference room on a particular day and says, I want today to be a lot better than tomorrow. And in fact, tomorrow is in pursuit of something much bigger. I have an idea on how we can do things differently. I have an idea on how our conventional approach isn't good enough. Now, I've been fortunate to spend the last 20 years in Silicon Valley for some of the world's largest technology firms, and it's always fascinating to me to study big transformations and market transitions, particularly when it's about new technology. And so often it's one developer who has the persistence and the dedication to hold the rest of the company responsible for the type of change that we're talking about. I was recently talking to a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, and I said, how are things going with your role? And he lights up, he's beaming ear to ear, and he says, I'm just having a wonderful time in my career right now. And I said, well, what is it? Is it the amount of capital that you're able to invest? Is it the nature of the technology? He said, no, you're missing the point. What has me so excited is that every day I get up in the coffee shops of Silicon Valley and spend time with the entrepreneurs that are creating a new world. They're at the cusp of new revolutions. And he gets to spend time with the people that have that mindset to create a new world. And he gets to see how that idea starts as a seed and blossoms into a company and gets to partake in that revolutionary thinking of how am I going to create a new world? How am I going to be relentlessly focused on creating the customer experiences that are going to make a difference? And what are all of us as enterprises and companies thinking of? What are the problems that we need to address in this engagement economy? Well, they're really threefold. First, we have to create those customer experiences. We have to use technology and technical assets to build new applications that create the next generation experiences for our customers. But we also have to think about the speed with which we do that. Constant innovation, faster time to market. And the reality is, despite the amount of capital that's being deployed, we as companies still have to be measured on both top and bottom line, and so we have to do that in a cost-effective manner. And that's the mentality that we have at Couchbase when we're designing our data solutions in support of the applications that you're delivering. Now, when I've spent time with many of you in the audience, and when I do that with customers around the world, what they tell me when it comes to database technology is that we need a new approach. We need a new data model. We need new points of optimization because the legacy technologies and legacy approaches simply are not designed and not capable of creating the very experiences that we're after. And it's all about creating those exceptional customer experiences that are going to be the differentiator of success and failure. And so from the very beginning times of our company, we knew this. And we had a mentality that we put into our architecture and our go-forward thinking focused on the enterprise of understanding what it was going to be needed to create these experiences. And what it comes down to is what we call the engagement database. As a matter of fact, it's the world's first and only engagement database. And that's going to be the focus of a lot of the material that you're going to hear today from your peers sitting in the audience and from the rest of my colleagues that are going to be telling stories about how customers have used our technology or how we've built the next releases of technology for you to take advantage of. But what I also want you to be very confident in is that we're here to be your partner. And this is not new. I stand up before you representing the company and a ton of history in supporting customers just like you. One of the things we're most proud of is the companies that we get to call our customers. As a matter of fact, there's over 400 of them around the world. And what makes us that much more proud is the mission-critical nature of the applications that you are depending on Couchbase to deliver. And others of you are depending on Couchbase to deliver. And that's a fact across all verticals. We count 3 of the top 10 e-commerce companies are customers. 3 of the top 3 global distribution systems in travel. 6 of the top 10 broadcast companies. 3 of the top 3 credit reporting agencies, and so on and so forth. And we're in relentless pursuit of ensuring that when our customers make the decision to go with Couchbase, that they're not just satisfied, but they're prospering. To that end, we went out and talked to our customers and said, how are we doing? And we actually commissioned IDC to do an independent piece of research on our behalf. And what did they tell us? They told us that the returns are exceptional. So, on average, customers that are investing in Couchbase are seeing $5 million of incremental return because of the experiences that we're enabling you to create. A 40% increase in response time, 19% faster time to market, a 274% return on investment, payback periods of 7 months. I mean, these are the type of statistics that when you put up, you almost don't believe. They're incredible. And it's because of that focus and what we've put in our technology completely aligned to your strategic imperatives of creating these applications that we're talking about. Now, what's my commitment to you going forward? 4 things. Most importantly, we are going to be relentlessly focused on innovation. We're very fortunate to be growing as a company, and we're allocating resources to continue to grow and continue to give you more tools to be successful. But none of that is more important than what we're doing with our technical teams. Constantly thinking about how we can support the requests that you're giving us on how we can go faster, thinking about how we can bring you other features that we determine to be very necessary, and never settling with what we have up to this point. We also, unlike some vendors, are totally focused on the enterprise. We want to make sure that we are supporting the largest companies in the world. And we know that there are developers, there are operations teams, there are lines of business owners, and we have to be mindful that our platform touches all of those different users in different ways. And for an end customer, you as enterprises to be successful means that every single one of those constituents needs to be successful. And so when we sit back as a company and we say, how are we doing, and we assess our performance, we're taking inventory across all aspects and all different types of people who are going to be touching our technology and our capabilities. We're also going to focus on customer experience. What does that mean? We want to make sure that you have all the assets that you need to consume our technology and get the most out of it. This is next generation service capabilities, training and education, all of the things that allow you to understand what our technology can do for you and make sure that you're getting the most out of your investment. And we're also deeply committed to building a partner ecosystem. This is everything from go-to-market partners who help us drive intimacy with all of you. It's also about technology partnerships where we're going to drive critical integration to make sure that you are able to have whole solutions. As important as a database is, we know that there are other technologies around it that you've come to depend on, and we want to make sure that we're doing our job to create the integration points that are going to be important to you. And at the end of the day, what is every employee at Couchbase thinking about? It's getting up every morning and ensuring that you're not just satisfied, but you're euphoric. It's how we think about framing our technology, but it's also how we think about every aspect of what we do as a company. We want to be a partner, your revolutionary partner, as you set forth on one of the greatest business opportunities that the world has ever seen. So what does that all add up to? Our mission is to be the data platform that revolutionizes digital innovation. And again, on behalf of the company, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for your investments in us as a partner. We are going to be here with you on this journey. And what I want to leave you with is a little video. And this video is meant to capture what can be done when technology is aligned with business opportunity. It's a video of what people can do when they're crazy enough to think that they can change the world. Thank you.
Yesterday, I took 500,000 people to a place they'd never been before.
With one app, we've financially empowered enough people to fill a city.
It's like my startup has taken on a life of its own.
Every day we help more and more people find something they can't live without.
I can literally slow down your pulse.
I fundamentally changed the nature of reality.
I've drawn 1 million gamers into a fantasy world. I'm not sure all of them want to come back.
Last week, I promised hundreds of thousands of people a better life. Today, they're obsessed with it.
There are things I've done with data you would not believe.
It's like you can take the data,
twist it and transform it.
It's off-the-scale innovation.
They call it customer engagement. I call it connecting. Really connecting.
I made someone believe in themselves for the first time ever.
Today, I started a revolution. Now it's your turn.